This is a story about a man named Eddie, and it begins at the end. The 5 People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. Eddie is 83 years old, a maintenance man at Ruby Pier, a seaside amusement park he has worked at his entire life. He never left, never became the engineer he dreamed of being. He walks with a cane, carries a quiet bitterness, and believes deep in his bones that his life meant nothing. Then, on his birthday, a ride malfunctions. A cart plummets. A little girl stands frozen in its path. Eddie drops his cane. He lunges forward. And then, darkness. But this is not the end. This is where the story truly begins. Eddie wakes up in heaven, but heaven is not what he expected. No clouds, no gates, no angels. Instead, heaven is a journey, and in it he must meet 5 people whose lives intersected with his own. 5 people who will explain everything. The first is the Blue Man, a carnival performer Eddie barely remembers. But the Blue Man remembers Eddie. As a child, Eddie chased a baseball into the street. A car swerved. The Blue Man suffered a fatal heart attack. Eddie is horrified. He waits for punishment, for judgment. But the Blue Man smiles. No life is a waste, he says. The only time we waste is the time we spend thinking we are alone. The first lesson: every life is connected. Every action ripples outward, touching lives we never even knew. The second person is the captain, Eddie's commanding officer from World War II. In the Philippines, during a prisoner of war escape, Eddie saw a shadow in a burning hut and ran toward it. The captain shot him in the leg to stop him. Eddie spent his whole life limping from that wound, resenting that bullet, resenting that man. But now the captain reveals the truth. There was no shadow. He saved Eddie's life. And later, the captain stepped on a landmine to clear the path for his men. Sometimes, when you sacrifice something precious, the captain says, you are not really losing it. You are just passing it on to someone else. The second lesson: sacrifice is not loss. It is love in its most selfless form. The third person is Ruby, the woman for whom Ruby Pier was named. She shows Eddie the darkest chapter of his life. His father, a violent, alcoholic man. A man Eddie hated. A man whose shadow hung over every corner of his existence. But Ruby shows Eddie something he never knew. His father's last act on Earth was one of loyalty, saving a friend who had wronged him, dying in the cold water of the ocean, calling his son's name. Holding anger, Ruby tells him, is a poison. It eats you from the inside. The third lesson: forgiveness is not for the person who wronged you. It is for yourself. The fourth person is Marguerite, Eddie's wife, the love of his life, the woman he lost too soon. She appears young and radiant, in the yellow dress she wore on their first date, the image Eddie carried in his heart for decades. They dance, they hold each other, and she tells him what he always feared was not true, that love does not end with death. Lost love is still love, she says. It just takes a different form. You hold it in your memory. You nurture it. You carry it with you. The fourth lesson: love transcends death. It is the one thing that never truly ends. And then, the fifth person, the one Eddie has dreaded his entire life. Tala, a young Filipino girl, the shadow in the burning hut. She was real. During the war, Eddie and his men set fire to a village to cover their escape. He saw a child in the flames. He ran toward her, but the captain stopped him. He never knew if she survived. He carried that uncertainty like a wound that never healed. And now she stands before him, her skin marked by burns, her eyes gentle. Eddie falls to his knees in the river of stones. He weeps. He takes a smooth stone and begins to wash her garns away. And as he scrubs, her skin heals. Her burns vanish. She glows. You keep them safe, she tells him, pointing toward the children of Ruby Pier. You make good for me. His whole life, every bolt he tightened, every ride he inspected, every child he unknowingly protected, was his atonement, his purpose. The fifth lesson: no life is meaningless. Even the most ordinary existence leaves a mark on the world. Eddie finally asks the question that has haunted him since the moment he died. Did he save the little girl at the pier? Tala smiles. Yes, she says. You pushed her. You saved her. My hands pulled you to heaven. And so Eddie finds his peace. He rides the Ferris wheel with Marguerite, high above a glowing ruby pier, where golden threads of light connect every person below, a web of invisible bonds stretching across time and lives and deaths. The 5 people you meet in heaven is not a story about dying. It is a story about living, about the unseen ways we touch each other, the sacrifices that shape us, the forgiveness that frees us, and the love that outlasts